My name is Josh Loeb, and I'm the co-owner of the Rustic Canyon family of restaurants, and we're in our first restaurant, Rustic Canyon. One of my favorites, which comes on and off the menu seasonally, is we have these Tao Farms yams that Jeremy does with, now they're with sunchokes, and there's like a green garlic butter in there, and it's just kind of crispy on the outside and really soft and sweet. I love that dish. We get that every time. One of our classic dishes, probably the only dish that actually remains on the menu year-round, is the pozole, which I still love and I get all the time. It's, their take on basically a pozole verde with salsa verde in it. It's really good. It has seafood and mussels and seafood changes sometimes with mussels and clams and so forth, depending on what we can get. So those are two of my favorites, but I like everything on the menu. Rustic Canyon is our most, it's one service, it's dinner only. It is our most sort of, it's probably our smallest menu. It's our most detailed and focused menu. It's our most dynamic menu. And our kitchen puts a lot of work into it. So we spend, we have meetings before service every single day to talk about not only the dish itself, but what went into the dish, who the people, where the dish was sourced, where the items and the ingredients in the dish were sourced from. We have menu guides that speak to every dish that was created, and they specifically focus on those things. Where, what's this farm? What's the story behind this farm? One of my favorite ocean locations is, I grew up in Santa Monica Canyon, and my family and I now live in the house that we grew up in, so it's a very personal spot for me. So I've spent hundreds, thousands of times walking onto that beach down there through the tunnel down by PCH. And part of me loves that location just because it's usually so empty, if it's not a Saturday or Sunday, there's literally like 10 people on the beach. When we were approached by Surfrider to talk about being certified with them, I was aware of some of the great work they had done with plastic bag ban and the beach access and so forth, and it just felt very consistent with the kind of things that we believed in, which is a sense of community, a sense of looking out for our community, a sense of being responsible with with our environment and the practices that we use in the restaurants. And so it really actually seemed like a pretty easy, seamless way to support something we believed in, and also to reaffirm some of the practices that we had been doing in our restaurants. One of the things that was a reminder for us when we started the process with Surfrider was just about being mindful about what we gave out. And for instance, straws, that a lot of times people don't use their straws, and once we serve a straw with a drink, we can't reuse it after that point, so it just goes to waste. So just being mindful about that, asking people, taking the extra time to ask people if they want something. Would you like water? Would you like a straw? So that you don't have things that unnecessarily go to waste. So I think seafood is a big challenge when it comes to sourcing, just because I think there's a lot of, sort of unreliable sources, and sources where seafood is not as clean as it should be, or not as responsibly fished as it should be. So, at Rustic, one of the things we try to do is we keep our seafood offerings focused and small, as opposed to just having a ton of things that we can't stand behind. We had a really cool program that we do off and on. It's called Dock to Dish. Something that our chef and partner Jeremy and his team in the kitchen started working with, and basically it was almost like a seafood CSA. You just commit to a certain amount of locally fished stuff, and they would just bring you a certain amount of pounds every week, and you wouldn't necessarily know what it was. And so that was, in Rustic, part of our ethos has always been to change the menu nightly, and to have it be an evolving menu that reflects what's going on at the markets and what's going on in the water too. So that program really fit in nicely, because it challenged us to see what we got and to work with it and to create something, but all the while we knew that we were getting incredibly thoughtfully fished seafood. Yeah, I mean, I think we're not zero waste. I think we'd like to get closer to zero waste. It's challenging, but part of it is also the technology around, the environmental technology, like making better products from recycled materials. Some of them are great already. To-go containers and things like that are way better. I think the two easiest places to start was what you're bringing into your kitchen, and then what you're dealing with the stuff that's coming out of your kitchen. Bringing in, using good local vendors, shopping at the farmer's market, buying good organic dairy or organic eggs. I think that's a really good, easy place to start. You have to raise your prices a little bit for it, but it's worth it. And I've found that if the food's really good, people will pay it. So, I think people respect and appreciate good product. How you'd handle your waste, I think, is really sort of easy to deal with now in this day and age. A lot of cities will have separate bins for food waste, which then gets reused and turned into compost, which is great. Separate bins for plastic, and in the beginning it's a little hard to train your kitchen to have your 3 trash cans that where do you throw where and so forth. But people get used to it pretty quickly. I think that's another easy way to deal with it. How you deal with your grease, making sure you use a company that comes and picks up your grease and reuses the grease for something else. Those are probably the easiest practices. You can kind of start to dig deep into things. I think buying, when you can afford it, buying plates that are made locally, buying aprons that are made locally, things like that I think really have an impact, and plus they build the community sense. Not only are they environmentally great because you don't have to buy stuff shipped across the world, but it supports your local sort of ecosystem, and so I think those are good places to start. We're really grateful to be working with Surfrider, and we hope you come visit us at Rustic Canyon.